it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Down,
watching.
set,
Learn something, man.
watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, everybody? Hold on. Let me make sure. Let me get a little mic check right quick on my side. Make sure my thing is straight over here. Okay, boom. Let me get the thing on. Yes, sir. There we go. Will, what up, Hulk? I see you. Monty, I see you. Hey, what's going on to the trappers, man? What's up with y'all? Look, man, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is. It is Cowboys Commanders preview. My man Will, how you feeling, bro? When the last time you hooped, man? You know we still be hooping. Well, we ain't hooping like a week or two, but we be hooping up Walker Mill, Will. So I don't know if you still around, all right? But I need to make sure we see you one of these days, man. It's been years, right? It's been years, bro. You need to pop back out one time for the fellas. Hey, but I appreciate everybody checking in. International Mual, AJ the GM, and then Dre the Truth. I love it. I'm gonna keep that up there till the fellas come in. So yeah, AJ and Dre is on the way. Welcome into another episode of that Trap or Die podcast, man. For everybody that will be tapping in later, if you are new to the Trap or Die podcast, let's get that administrative out of the way. Hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, whether you're on Twitch or whether you're on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button if you are in here right now watching. And then yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So listen, how y'all feeling about these boys, the Commanders? Oh, another administrative item. I'm sorry. If you are watching for the Trap or Die, the Commanders morning show too, as you all know, if you don't know, I am on my way to Dallas tomorrow. So right now I haven't erased the episode, the upcoming episode for tomorrow morning. So right now I have to take care of some things in the morning. I won't be around for the morning show. I have to try to figure some things out even next week. I may be able to sneak it in the hotel, but I got work travel all next week too. So in terms of the Commanders morning show, that's going to be a little rough, at least for the next few days that we usually do it on. But yeah, how y'all feeling about the game? I got to come out there. Cause I'm in good shape with these guys, with the Commanders this week. I think Washington, and I'll talk about it with the fellas. And I'm not feeling like overly optimistic just because I'm going out there, right? I'm going out to Dallas to have a good time. Like I'm about to have a good time, about to enjoy myself for a day, be a fan for a day, and just socialize and stuff like that. But I'm in a good mood because I think Dallas altogether is in a tough spot with Cooper Rush. Like Cooper Rush has played the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants respectively. I am all in understanding of who Cooper Rush is, and I'm all in an understanding of who the Cincinnati Bengals are. I think they're a good team. And I also think that they're going to win tonight against the Miami Dolphins. Fingers crossed. I hope I'm right. But I think what's really interesting with Cooper and the Dallas Cowboys is that it's not even the short week stuff, is that Cooper, I don't think that you can really maintain a level of consistency with a backup quarterback. It's going to be hard to do. And for Washington, whose backs are against the wall, right, in a position where you can't afford to go 1-3. Now, obviously, right, and we'll tap into it because, Hawk, I see you, right? He said, I'm starting to feel optimistic. At the same time, bringing out the black jersey, a little Jay Gruden-ish. Did somebody order the code red already? Hey, man, they ain't – look, the day they the day that they debut the all burgundy jerseys, that's gonna be their code red game. That's gonna be their code red game. The day they debut the the all burgundy jerseys. Let's go ahead and get the man draining this thing right quick. Where is boom, and boom. Here we go. What's going on? Let me bring the thing up right here. Hawk got everything, all the names and nicknames that we need. Hawk is the guy that provides it, man. Dre, how you feeling today, big? Oh, can I see you with the do-rag on, man? You about to go stomp a mole hole in somebody, bro? Get into a fight?
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? For some reason, I'm feeling very New York tonight. I don't know why, man. You know what I'm saying?
You got your Timbs on.
About to put the butters, man. You know what I'm saying? Get the butters out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pissed.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chuck. You know, Chuck always talking about bringing out the butters and the black Air Force Ones. Yeah, that's what type of mood I'm on, man.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Chuck, bro. But nah, that's what's up, man. And I was just talking. So I asked everybody like how they were feeling about the game altogether. I'll hand the floor to you and see where you're at. We can get into this preview and get things started. But how are you feeling about the game? Because I was telling these guys that I'm actually feeling pretty good in terms of Commanders' chances. And the reason why I'm this way, Dre, is because Washington is and I'm not even thinking about like a rivalry. I'm not thinking about a division game. There is an aspect of this team knowing that they just got their ass whooped. They got their ass whooped twice by the Dallas Cowboys. So that 56-point beatdown in AT&T State, I think it's AT&T Stadium, that beatdown that they suffered last year can still be lingering in their head, right? But I'm in a spot where Cooper Rush, betting on him to sustain the consistency that he's playing, and he's not playing like an extremely high level, right? He's not looking like a Tom Brady out there, but he's playing consistent. He's playing mistake-free football. But asking him to do that consistently, especially after a week in which they were struggling against the Giants, I think Washington is just in a good spot. I think they're in a really good spot with their backs against the wall, going up against a team who has found ways to win two games in a row. But I don't know if that's going. Like I said, I don't know if that's going to be sustainable for these guys. How are you feeling right now? What's your feel on this game before we even like do a deeper dive into it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been actually trying to work up the energy for this week, man. Because I mean, Sunday was so deflating. Like that shit was really deflating.
Hey, we saw it on your face.
Yeah, it was like, damn. You know, I mean, my mom called me today. You know, I mean, she's a big Washington fan, and she was like, man, I hadn't been that mad watching a game in a long time. I was like, my same here. Like, I mean, they really. I mean, it's one thing to lose. We lose. We're used to that, but just when you don't look like an NFL franchise, it's like, how can we still keep believing in the message you all are trying to convey to us? I mean, you know, it's one thing you got to convey it to the players and staff, but you also got to convey it to your fans. Like I said, you know, we're in the middle of a rebrand. I mean, the rebrand is supposed to be completed. I mean, they still got a couple more things to do, but people are going to lose investment in all of this if you don't put together a product that's worth watching on a weekly basis. So, I mean, that's where I've been at energy wise. But I mean, with all that said, it's Dallas week, man. Like, I mean, you know, I'm talking all this shit now, but I will be front and center ready on Sunday to watch this game, you know, 1:00. And like you said, Mual, you brought up a good point in that, you know, we should be pissed off because of what happened last year in the Dallas series. I mean, they manhandled us last year. I mean, even I thought last year they caught us at a real good time. That was when the COVID started ravaging the team. They didn't have bodies, but either way, they got embarrassed out there. They got embarrassed by Dallas. Dallas has something to prove. And it was funny because I think Dallas had that energy that you say we should have coming into this game last year because of what we did to them the year before. Like we whooped their ass on both occasions that year before. But even they didn't have Dak those two times, but still Dallas had that on their mind. I think a couple of their players had mentioned they remember on Thanksgiving when we whooped their ass, so they were ready. But Washington actually has two things that you feel like should make them come out and play real feisty this weekend. And that's, like you said, more with the Cowboys series, how that went last year. And also what just happened this past weekend. You got your ass whooped this past weekend and, you know, against a division opponent. And this was a game where we thought that we should have came out firing on all cylinders because of what happened in the Detroit game, at least. Like you thought they came out Detroit flat, even though they tried to make a game of it in the second half. You thought maybe they'll get off to a good start this time, and they didn't get off to a good start. And they never got off the ground in the Philly game, so they got embarrassed. So now you think they got a couple of things that should light a fire under their ass going into Sunday. And, theoretically, Jamal, you should be right in the sense that this should be a game that we should kind of feel good in the sense that you think that they want to put up a fight this week. So that's what we have to hope for as fans right now, that they are going to come out this Sunday fired up, that they got embarrassed last week and last year to this Cowboys team. So now what are you going to do?
Yeah. And what you're saying, like, so I talked to, well, I don't even matter because I'm about to say he didn't get too deep into it. So I'll ask you just flat out. You mentioned like it's Dallas weekend and you're trying to get that energy riled up for these guys, and you know that you're going to get there eventually by game day and by kickoff. But what does it mean to you now? Like, how do you feel? Because I saw somebody on Twitter mention that Dallas weeks are officially dead. And somebody responded and said, I'm not going to repeat everything he said verbatim. I can't. It's a lot that he said, but he essentially said, no, it's dead for you. It's not dead for everyone. It's still here for some of us. And while I think that they're faking it, to be honest with you, because they're just trying to find those reasons to clamp onto the team, I'm not one to question them, right? If you feel that way, go ahead. So where are you at with this Cowboys rivalry now? Just like, where is it waning over the years for you? Do you still, even though you do get up for the game, like how far has the level changed over the years for you?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I can say that it's definitely not what it was. And it's for a number of reasons. I mean, obviously, one of those reasons is we haven't been, a successful team in the last 30 years. But the truth of the matter is, it's also kind of the same thing for Dallas as well. Like, Dallas isn't that team that they were in the 90s and the 80s when this rivalry was really hot and popping. Neither one of these two teams have been, what made this NFL. Like the NFL at one point looked up to the NFC East as, this is our banner holder in this league. Like this league, this division here is what everyone comes to watch. Like, we are the pinnacle. But that hasn't been the case for a long time. I mean, shit, I think we saw a stat this past weekend where they said there hasn't been a consecutive NFC East winner, division winner in years. I can't remember the last time that's been the case. So, I mean, you just see the topsy-turvy of this NFC East, but it's not because it's, great teams winning. It's because it's every year. It's like, man, somebody's winning by default. So that kind of, makes you lose the luster of the rivalries. I mean, I know I feel it because not even my sister and my uncle are big Cowboys fans, and not even they talk trash like they used to, and it used to be a real thing. Like I said, because when I growing up, I was watching Super Bowl teams, Washington winning Super Bowls, Dallas was winning Super Bowls, and that carried on the fan rivalry. Like, I mean, everyone was proud of their teams. They wanted to talk shit. And then over the years, like I said, when you're not carrying, the same thing you were doing in the 80s and 90s, that stuff loses luster. I mean, but still, it still means something because when you get out there, you watch them, especially when they go to Dallas, they out there in that Texas stadium, AT&T stadium, whatever you want to call it. That's it brings back a little bit of nostalgia, and so that's when it does still feel like a rivalry. So I'm hoping to kind of get together the family this weekend to watch the game. Maybe it'll feel like the old days in a sense. So, but it's definitely lost its luster. It's not what it used to be, and like I said, it's for a lot of reasons, not just Washington, but it's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and like for me, I still remember the games that really amped me up. Like, not literally every week, but like certain years. Like 2005 was big for me. The Monday Night Miracle, the one where I fell asleep on. Like, fell asleep just naturally because I'm a youngin. And I fall asleep like third quarter. And I'm encouraged to fall asleep because we're losing. Like, we ain't doing nothing. So I'm like, fuck it. Hell, go to sleep. But I remember waking up the next day on my way to the bus stop. And this is where like technology is just starting to get a little innovative. So I'm trying to figure out ways on my phone to figure out what the score was. And I found a way. I don't know how I did it. Like, I don't know if I had internet on my phone or not, but I did something. And I was like, hold on. How we got 14 and they got, how did that happen? So now I'm waiting to get home after school to figure out how we won. What else? Even after that, the years after that, all the Joe Gibb era, from 04, I know he was here in 04, but 05 to 07, those were all memorable. And that's when I was really invested. Like 2010, I came back as well. And then obviously through the Shanahan era, I was involved. Like it's a lot of periods. And then as the years go by, it just kind of wanes. And what I really remember, what really did it for me was, and not that it was like all right, fucking, I'm done with this rivalry thing. I just noticed that I stopped caring as much as I did was the 2016 year with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott as rookies. They took over for Dallas. I really didn't know him. I was really invested in Tony Romo. I did not like him. And that's kind of, what really helped me and what fueled me and some of the people that they had on that roster. Patrick Creighton, I fucking hated him. And Jason Witten, like he's at the top of the list too. Roy Williams, I love to see us cook him. And like there were so many players that I can remember in the 2000s, late 2000s, and obviously 2010s that really did it for me. But yeah, man, to your point, it's like if we ain't winning, man, it's hard to really say that you're proud of your team, but also if it's not consistently like competitive, that ultimately dooms like the games themselves. Like if they're not competitive, like that ultimately dooms you. The last 2 years, none of these games, like literally that 2 years, that's 4 games. Yep. None of them have been competitive. Like,
that's true.
What are we here for? What are we here for, man?
But Jamal, I did want to add one more thing to the why it's not what it was, because social media has a lot to do with that as well. And the reason I say that is because you could talk about it with us, like this fan base, over the years, we've grown so much to the point where we hate our own fans more than we hate other teams' fans. Like, and social media is a product of that. You see in different opinions.
We're distracted.
Yes, now you hate your own fans. You don't hate Cowboy fans like that. You war them with your own fans, and that's not just with this fan base. Cowboys fan base goes through it too. They arguing with themselves because everyone wants to be the GM and say what the team should do, and you want your opinion to be right and the other person's opinion to be wrong. So you're like, fuck it, I hate my own fans. I don't hate this team no more. So by the time you playing this team, like it's like, oh man, shit, the Redskins, well, we still hate them? No.
Nah, I'm with you, bro. Like I do know one thing. I think I put it this way for everybody that's listening to, you're still a fan regardless of everything that Washington got going on, right? You're still a fan and you're still there. There's a sliver of light in you when kickoff comes around for an NFC East matchup, and you're tingling a little bit. Like you're like, all right, let's go ahead and smoke these motherfuckers. Like if you have that one little glimpse on game day where you're ready to go, like you don't always have that against Detroit or Jacksonville or Houston or Atlanta or anybody else that you want to name on your schedule. But if you have that for your NFC East matchups, that you're still in there. That it's still there, and you're just waiting for this goddamn team to wake up. Like if Ron Rivera and these guys can wake up, then maybe you got something going on. Dre, what bothers you about this Dallas Cowboys team as we just focus on these guys right now? What is something that bothers you? And what is something that's going to have to be a key focus for Washington to counter or to defend or to prepare for what bothers you on that side of the ball?
Well, I think the obvious thing is the pass rush. Yeah. I mean, Micah Parsons, I mean, that dude's a beast. I mean, he's an animal. And just, you seeing what's happened to this team the past couple of weeks. And Carson Wentz has taken a beating. The offensive line's taking a beating. And the Cowboys, I think, are number one in the NFL in sacks right now. So if that's our biggest weakness right now, and that's their biggest strength, that's obviously the biggest concern going into this game. Now, the thing that can counteract that, and it's something, and this is probably what made me so mad watching the game on Sunday, is Scott Turner has to adjust early. I mean, going in this game, he should already know what the game plan is. He should already say, all right, I really have to start off with a different type of game plan. But if that game plan isn't working, you have to come out and adjust. So last week, I just kept saying it over and over. Early in that game, where Carson Wentz kept taking sack after sack after sack, I said, when is Scott Turner going to start emphasizing running the ball? at this point. Like you have to at least start running, because the Eagles at this point, I don't even think the Eagles were expecting run. I just think they expected us to drop back and pass every time, and Scott Turner played right into their hands. So with this Dallas defense, you don't want to come out there acting like you just have this, high aerial passing attack. I mean, that's cool. Yeah, sure, you have weapons. We've been talking about the weapons all season, but you don't have to force that game plan right now. Right now, it's not ready. Like, for whatever reason, it's not ready. You have to adjust it. Right now, I think the biggest strength on the offensive line is run blocking. So you're going to want to run the ball. I think that should be the focus until you get Carson Wentz comfortable enough and you get everyone else in the offense comfortable enough in what they're doing, and say, now we can start opening things up a bit. But right now, you're going to have to dial it back a little bit. You're going to have to make games a little ugly. Like, I know you want to win finesse. I know you want to show off what you can do with your play calling, but right now you're stinking. So you have to I mean, they stink. So you have to counter that. Like I said, you can't play into this Cowboy team's hand and come in this game and say, we're going to pass all day if your offensive line isn't ready and your quarterback is seeing stars out there. So they're going to have to adjust. And I think that's the way to probably at least be into this game early, is at least emphasizing a power run game.
Dre, so like I've been hearing a lot of talk of people I respect. So it's like, it is what it is. Like Logan Paulson, Chris Cooley today on Sheehan's podcast.
He was good today.
Yeah. And like, I already knew the tendency, but I didn't do like any research behind it. Like I knew that Scott Turner had this habit of passing in like run heavy looks or run based formations. And like the key for Washington and what really hurts them is 12 personnel looks. So you're talking about one running back, 2 tight ends. And Dre, Washington, what really killed them against Philly is that Philly already knew their tendency. They were not fooled. Washington passes in 12 personnel currently nearly 70% of the time that they line up in 12 personnel.
So you're not fooling anyone.
They're not fooling anyone when you line up in that 2 tight end set. They're not going to run it. Like, if you guess pass 7 times out of 10, you're right. Like, you don't have to. You can just pin your ears back and fucking go at Carson Wentz, right? But what that means for Washington, and comparatively speaking, the research that I did and understanding like that tendency, and people when I say 70% of the time, don't think that they've done like 1,000 looks out of 12 personnel. But when you see that matchup, obviously think about from a coordinator or a high level standpoint, like they're thinking 10 times deeper and more critically than we are talking about it on a show. But I say that to say like 70% of the time, the number could have been around like 70 looks out of 12 personnel, or maybe like 50 looks out of 12 personnel. And that's where you get your 70%. Ultimately, my point is, when you look at other teams around the league, and I just did, I didn't do all 32 teams. I did probably like some of the better teams in the NFL to see like where they were in terms of their efficiency out of 12 personnel, and even some run heavy teams like Cleveland Browns out of 12 personnel. It will make sense for them to pass it because they have a really good run game. They have Nick Chubb and they have Kareem Hunt, so they're up there in like 60 or 65. Close to 70% in terms of their 12 personnel looks, because you have running backs and you have a established offensive line who forces you to respect that ground game. You can run that play action or whatever and be effective. But you're looking at Green Bay, Tampa Bay, who are the other teams I looked at? Tennessee, New England, some other teams out there with respectable, like very efficient coordinators at the very least. They're closer to 50%. And some of them are even still run heavy. They're shooting at like they're over 50% in terms of their run to pass ratio in 12 personnel. And my thing is, and my whole point again about bringing these numbers up, it's not about you have to run the ball when you're in this look, because if you're passing it, you're losing. That's not my point. My point is Scott Turner, and I hope that he did some self-scouting, because he has to be extremely understanding that, bro, nobody is falling for your 12 personnel situation. And some of these people, and why some of your things aren't successful, is because just like that 12 personnel number, there's other tendencies in which they're expecting you to run it. They're expecting you to run in it and you're running in it, or they're expecting you to pass in a certain situation and you're passing in it. and they picked up on your tendencies. So I hope that you self-scouted. Just as simple as I found a simple number to tell you that 70% for you needs to be closer to 50. Like, how are you running 12 personnel against light boxes and you're not running the football? Like, that is just something that mind boggles me. So I'm in the same boat as you. They need to find a way to run it. Ultimately, I'm in the boat of this whole game. Like, I did my 3 keys for Hogs Haven, and I told people off the rip, this whole game is going to be for me about how Scott Turner and Carson Wentz helps this team out, because they need a bounce back game just as bad as any other person or any other unit on this team. It comes down to those two. And we can go further and continue on with these guys, but it really does. My first concern meshes with yours. It comes down to Scott Turner and how he can help out his team, help out his quarterback, help out that offensive line, and run games. They have a few ways in which they can get really good looks against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the last 2 weeks, it's like Scott Turner has been late to the party. And like I said, they showed up in a Detroit Lions game in the second half, made a game of it. But last week they never showed up, and this is becoming really concerning. I mean, I tried to listen to his presser early. I didn't get to listen too much to it. I didn't get to see if they were able to press him out a bit about, what is these slow starts and why aren't you adjusting? You got guys like you said, Logan Paulson and Chris Cooley. These guys, and even yourself. I mean, you all diagnose these plays, and you're looking at it like, we're seeing this, but why isn't he? It's like he's stubborn. Like, Chris Cooley actually made a quote today that I was thinking about the same thing with Scott Turner. He was like, man, Scott Turner kept running the same concepts over and over and over again, and the Eagles were
ran mesh so many times.
Yeah,
bro.
Exactly. The mesh concepts over and over and over again. And Cooley made me laugh because he was like, I just can imagine Scott Turner on the sideline going, run it again. It's gonna work at some point in this game. Just keep running that shit, And that's what I thought watching the game. I was watching this game. Like,
Coach, we down 30.
Yeah,
run it again.
Do it again. It's got to work. I mean, a broke clock gotta be right at least twice a day. So, and that's what Scott was with his play calling out there. It was like he was just determined that he was gonna run his shit. The shit that I came in here with, the shit that we schemed up. We're gonna run that, and you just gonna have to prove to me that you're gonna stop it over and over again. It's almost like, he thought the Eagles can't sustain this level of pressure, so we're gonna keep on running it until it works. Because at some point it worked against Detroit, but it didn't work against the Eagles. Like I said, the Eagles were never fooled by any of this stuff. But like you said, Jamal, this game is important for Scott Turner. Like, this is really, I mean, at this point, yeah, Wentz is what he is, but I'm looking at Scott Turner because we all looked at him before the season. We said, hey, we're going to get an answer on Scott Turner this year. He supposedly has a quarterback that can open up his offense, and he's able to now say he has some of the personnel to take his offense to the next level, or at least show what kind of play call he is. And right now he's failing the test. I mean, he's just flat out failing the test, and it's hurting his team. I mean, we talked about the defense the first 2 weeks, and the defense was horrendous the first 2 weeks. But by all means, I mean, even though the defense isn't perfect, and at this point we can never expect that. I don't think you can even expect a top 15 unit. But games like what they did against the Eagles this week, I at least thought they gave you a chance. I at least thought that unit gave you a chance. The Eagles only scored in one quarter, but then again, they probably felt they didn't need to score anymore because the offense just wasn't going to threaten them at any point in that game. But I still like what the defense gave you last week versus what they gave you the other 2 weeks. But the offense was just a no-show. And that's Scott Turner's unit. And I'm also starting to wonder, too, is Ron Rivera giving them too much freedom? Because, I mean, I feel like at some point, Ron Rivera could step into Scott Turner and say, hey, Scott, we need to start doing this a little bit more.
I'm about to say, he been doing some code. Now, I've admittedly this, because you all know I usually do look at the press releases. Mm-hmm. This week I haven't really done too much in terms of what he's been saying. I've been very annoyed with Ron Rivera for the obvious reasons. So I just read the Twitter quotes. And I did hear something about to what you're saying, or maybe it was radio. I don't remember. Just shows I haven't really been paying attention to him. But he has said something about if we're going to run play action, we have to be able to establish the run game, or we have to actually run the ball or something like that.
I didn't like that quote. Yeah, I heard it.
Talk to me. Yeah. Talk to me.
Yeah, in that quote, Ron said that in order to establish the play action, you have to get some positive run yards going. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think you necessarily need positive running yards or positive rush yards to establish a play action. You know, I mean, I think it's actually a myth, and it's all about tendencies. And if you're not fooling anybody, if they know you're not running the ball, then that's what it is. It ain't necessarily that you're not getting positive yards, because you can go out there and establish a running game. You can say, all right, even if we're getting 2-3 yards, the defense still going to expect you to run if you're still running the ball. But if you're not running the ball at all, what the hell are they going to bite on? You know, regardless of whether you're getting positive or negative yards. So I didn't like that quote from Ron Rivera. I thought that was a little bit of a cop-out. But again, I still think that right now he has – and it's a double-edged sword. It's a gift and a curse. Like, you feel like, you know, as Ron Rivera, I get it. I get it that you want to put some trust in your staff. You want to say, hey, you know, I'm giving you the freedom and the reins to do this. But at this point, your staff might be the death of you. I mean, it's kind of like with Jay Gruden here with his
is he aware of that? Like, to your point, like, is Ron even aware? Like, if that is the case, like, if we understand it to be accurate from our perspective, that his staff may be the death of him, and that may be true, like, down the road. And I think the question that I'm essentially asking is, do you think that he's aware of it? But also, will it be, to like what you're saying, will it be a detriment to the point where if he does recognize it, does he even take action, or does he try to find a way to coddle them in a way in which not literally like he does Carson Wentz, but also like he protects his guys, man. So
he does.
I'm asking you, like, is he aware? Like, can he do anything if he's aware, or will he do? Not can he do?
I feel like he's aware, but I also feel like he's being Mr. Nice Guy in a sense to his staff. Like you said, he's trying to, like, I feel like last year he stepped in a little bit and said, hey, Scott, like when we were on that 4-game winning streak and that was the best stretch of the year we had, you notice they ran the ball a lot in that stretch. Like the running game was the strongest point of that team.
Was that throwing a rock at the
yes,
in
the
locker room?
Yes, that whole little stretch right there. They were running the ball a lot more. And I feel like that wasn't a Scott Turner, you know, real ideology in a sense. I felt like that was Ron Rivera probably stepping in and saying, hey, Scott, we got to run the ball a little bit more. Like, I know you like to pass, but this is what we need to do with this team. But I felt like coming into this year, they wanted to see what they have with Carson Wentz. You know, Ron Rivera said, all right, Scott, you know, I'm gonna let you go ahead and open up the playbook, do what you do. But hey, when you go out there and you're getting embarrassed, now Ron Rivera, and I heard some of the quotes, I think he finally mentioned, a lot of people have been talking about this. He finally said, we need to coach better. It's something you just hadn't heard from Ron Rivera a lot in his tenure. And that has annoyed me, that, you know, they'll talk about the players, but they won't necessarily call out the coaches. And he finally said that this week. But
he'll never say I noticed that too.
You're right.
And he has said, because I listened to an interview that he had with JP Finley for NBC Sports, and he mentioned like the coaches need to coach better. I gave him a partial cookie for it. I was like, all right, bet. I see you attempting to take accountability, but I think like when people mention ego with Ron, and I hate that. You know, it always comes to this, but I truly think this is just really what I believe. I think what hurts him is the fact that he just can't say I. Like, that has been the case for a long period of time. When it comes to coaches, it's we. When it comes to player, it's he. Yeah. Like, it's never necessarily an I thing for when it comes to him trying to be better. And I don't know if that's going to be a detriment, but I do think what it does do, like I tell people all the time, there are people in my life who I'm cool with, or I be cordial with, or I'm actually tight with. And for all their flaws or for worse, like, you got to understand who they are. It's a give and take. Everybody's not perfect. I'm not perfect. If you understand that, you'll be better in life, type of thing, right? And you just got to trust the people around you that, you know, they're for you. But ultimately, like, some people are actually flawed. And does that mean that they're a terrible person? No, but can you count on them in a certain situation to really like be responsible and or show leadership or show accountability, like when those moments come? And some people in your life, you can ask them to, like, they can be very cool in your corner, And do you trust them? Like if all goes well to really like hold themselves accountable, or would they try to find that excuse? Like it wasn't really on me. This will happen. And that's where I'm getting at with Ron. Like it's not like a fatal flaw in his character, but I think that is just a flaw, bro. Like if you're ever going to expect that ego to go down to the point where it's like he's not going to, like if he feels like he says it's probably a detrimental on his ability to coach. Like I think that's what really hurts him, and that gets in the way of him saying I need to do better as well. And it can hurt you. Right, even if he gets fired, he'd be like, "Man, I ain't do nothing wrong with my coaches." Like, you never know, bro. But it's something that I noticed, man. He did take accountability from the coach's perspective, a coaching staff, but he didn't say shit about himself.
And so the issue too with this year is Ron doesn't have a rock to hide under this year. The last 2 years, when things got bad or there was a rough patch, Ron was able to say, all right, well, this is year one. And, he would do that in this press conference. Well, we're still evaluating this. We're still evaluating that, or, year two. Oh, we still got to mature. We still got to do this. And it's only year two. We didn't get a chance to do this, that, or the third. Those were valid rocks for him to hide under. But year three, Ron Rivera told us going into this season, I'm very confident in this team. We're going to start, ready to at least put ourselves in position to start contending going forward. I have my quarterback now. So Ron's told you all of these. Yeah, right. He told you all of these things going into this year. So now you don't have a rock to hide under anymore. So you can't give us the same things you were giving us for the first 2 years of your tenure. And like I said, you can come out here and you can lose. I mean, losing happens in this league, but you're not looking like an NFL franchise in year three. 3 games in, yeah, you won your first game, but second game, you looked horrible for a half. Third game, you didn't even look like you belonged on a field with a division opponent, So Ron doesn't have anywhere to go hide anymore with his comments. So now that's what you're going to see, he's saying, oh, yeah, we do have to coach better. Yeah, you have to start saying that now because we're not going to keep listening to you if you're going to keep throwing out other things that you were saying to the first 2 years. And you gave us something different in this offseason. So we're expecting different now.
I wonder if the coaching staff got burners on Twitter where they can just infiltrate Scan's Twitter and just hear what people are saying about these guys.
If they do, I would believe it. If they do, they're probably the guys on there talking about, oh, well, I bet you can't do any better. I know you are, but what am I?
I was saying, Ron is, very decent. Like, Ron is talking to these guys in and out. He is a leader. You have nothing to worry about with Ron with player. It's his players. Them guys are ass. How about you tell them players to play well? Hey, man, it is what it is with these guys. But let's go ahead and get back to the game itself. You had mentioned the offensive line, obviously. Micah Parsons. I think that guy he's becoming. And what's going on, everybody? My bad. OG, I saw you in here. Obviously, I should have said what's up. What's going on, OG? What's going on, Jay? What's going on, JB? Rail B, what's going on, Big Dog? What's going on, y'all? Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. But yeah, you talked about that defense, man. I think Micah Parsons is really generational, and I would love to see like the consistency on the fan base in Dallas to see, how they really felt about that guy heading into the draft, but also when they selected Micah Parsons because that's the havoc wreaker, obviously, but like the way he's able to maneuver in the box, maneuver off ball, maneuver as an edge rusher. Washington's gonna have their hands full. Like he can go from edge rusher to interior pass rusher, A-gap pressures from blitzing, and be very effective. And I know we talked about that offensive line, so I think if we transition to Carson Wentz and his ability to understand what this pressure is going to look like, we talked about Scott. I think with Carson, and we're going to get to the defense in a second, but Carson, from his standpoint and his ability to improve this week, it's going to be important for Wentz to trust what he sees, but also play with a little bit better anticipation, because I think that's probably the biggest thing that killed him last week. Obviously, accuracy too. Like, I'm not going to just overlook that, but anticipation really hurt him last week against the Eagles. That pressure is going to get there from Dallas with this offensive line that I really just don't trust. I don't expect like 9 sacks again. You could probably see I can see 4 happening, but that pressure is going to be there, fellas, and it's going to be on Wentz to really find a way to trust his guys more, to trust that they're going to be there, but also get that ball out there early so they can make a play with it.
Yeah, Carson, for one thing I really want to see him start doing, he's going to have to start taking the underneath stuff. I feel like he, especially when the pressure's on, there's usually an outlet or check down option. He's going to have to start taking it. You have to start trusting that option for you. Everything doesn't have to be, I'm looking downfield, and if it's not there, then hey, I'm just taking this sack. Like you have to start doing. I mean, like I said, that's something Scott Turner can help him with. I mean, they all need to be in there collectively going through these things, saying this is what we're going to get better at this week. So Carson, definitely, that's one of the things I want to see him, emphasize, or at least Scott Turner emphasize this week. Carson, take that check down that's there. Take that underneath. When nothing else is there. I felt like a lot of the routes are just too much. Oh, we're going deep. We're going to do this. That's fine if it's there, but teams are game planning for that now. Like I even said, like last year, the game plans for defenses were, we don't really have to worry about the deep ball. We're just going to take away the underneath stuff because this is Taylor Heineke, a quarterback. This year is the exact opposite. I feel like teams are saying, we're going to take away your deep ball and we're going to give you the underneath because Carson isn't going to take the underneath. So now you, Carson, and Scott Turner, they have to adjust to this. They have to adjust and take the underneath. That's why I say you could start running the ball more, take the underneath stuff. Do that, and then all of the other stuff can start opening it up. Take the layups, and you can start making the threes. That's what this offense needs to be right now until they figure it out. I mean, yeah, you have a new quarterback, new system. He's in a new system. Make him comfortable. Get comfortable, and that's why I say start making the layups, and then you can go for the threes. Right now, they just want threes and half court shots. They don't want the layups, so we need to kind of reverse that.
AJ, how you feeling today, big dog? We are talking matchup. Cowboys, Washington, offensive side of the football. I mean, we can take this anywhere because we're about to get to the defense anyway. But how you feeling about this matchup? Like I said, we're going on defense, so you can take it whichever way you want to. Offense, what bothers you, or what are you convinced of, or same thing with the defense. What bothers you, or what are you convinced of, or confident in, whatever way you want to go.
I mean, I was just going to make a rebuttal to what Dre said. Like, you want Wentz to do something that he's never done in his professional career. Like, coach has been preaching that to him from day one, take the underneath stuff. That's not who he is. And
are we there? Dre, you there?
I'm here. AJ went out.
Okay. AJ, you in the car? So he might be in the car.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying, I actually have like a rebuttal to Dre. Like, he's preaching about taking the underneath, and Scott Turner hopefully being able to coach him to do so. But overall, this is who he is. He's not going to take the underneath stuff. He wants the big time play. He wants the deep ball. That's why you got him holding on to the ball so long. Mual provided us some content in the chat earlier this week from Team 33, Joe Banner, who used to run the Eagles. And it shows exactly that, along with so much other footage that you could watch, that he doesn't want the underneath stuff. So I think, ideally, I think if I was Scott Turner, I probably would start the game off first play. I'm just going to throw a deep ball. If it gets completed or incomplete, at least I did it, and try to get them to change their philosophy a little bit and start to run the ball this game. I think you really have to make an emphasis on running the ball and also doing some gadget plays and some jet sweeps, just some misdirection, so they can't just, consistently just pin back and come after Carson. You have to slow down that pass rush as much as possible. So the way to do that is screens, jet sweeps, different misdirection plays to make them have to lock in on certain things, maybe even include the RPO a little bit more. Maybe Carson doesn't want to run like he used to back in the day, but you still want to pose that threat. I mean, they're running RPOs with Matt Ryan, and he's not going anywhere. Tom Brady is running RPOs. At the end of the day, you just want to provide that illusion. But Maul, you were saying also, you guys have already touched on the defensive side for Washington.
No, we're about to swing to it, but you can if you're going defense, you can start with it because that's where we were going there anyway.
I mean, defensively for Dallas or for Washington, like where
No. So defensively for Washington.
Oh, defensively for Washington, man. I once again would stack the box, make Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard be the reasons why they win, and not Cooper Rush. I mean, I don't feel like Cooper Rush has played that much of a significant role in these 2 games that they have won. I think he's made the basic plays, the simple reads that have produced for them getting down the field, and I feel like Kellen Moore has simplified the offensive playbook for him. But for Washington, man, stack the box, make Cooper Rush be the reason why they win. And if they do win, let him be all over SportsCenter. But at the end of the day, I think stopping Pollard, especially, and Ezekiel Elliott should be your primary focus, and you should definitely stack that box. And, I don't know who's practiced or not this week. Is William Jackson back?
Where is the injury report? Let me take a look. I have done a terrible job of preparing for this thing. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I don't think so though. Go ahead though. I'll bring it up.
Yeah, but I would just say, trying to see if you can start creating some position flex also within your defensive core. I would start moving Kendall Fuller around a little bit. Use him like, teams in the past have used Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger. Maybe have him line up at nickel sometimes outside, but also free safety. Like, try to get Bobby McCain off the field some plays and have your playmaker back there that's a ball hawk, because at the end of the day, you haven't created no turnovers. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and count the one at the end against Trevor Lawrence. That was
I wasn't either.
You feel me?
William was full, by the way. William Jackson, okay. He was full.
Okay, so in 3 games, you haven't created no turnovers. You need to go ahead and start making some plays on the ball. But yeah, that's honestly what I would do defensively if I were Washington. I would make Cooper Rush beat us. Let him be the reason why. And I don't feel that CeeDee Lamb is good enough to be a threat in the passing game against these corners. People want to talk poorly about William Jackson III or Kendall Fuller, but they can easily defend CeeDee Lamb. I don't see him as a threat in my opinion. I think Washington's corners are way better than what New York Giants have at corner.
Yeah, I don't think CD is anywhere. Like, somebody was arguing. Now I get it, they were a Dallas fan, but they were really convinced that CD was like a number 1. That was the first thing, but also convinced that their number 1 in CeeDee Lamb was better than Terry McLaurin. And even with Terry McLaurin, who I don't think is a top 10 receiver, he's a fringe top 10 guy. Even still, CD doesn't, like, he's not even close. And I do want to get JB's question out of the way because he asked us twice. My bad, JB. But when and who decided to wear the black uniforms? Washington. When they announced their they announced their home uniform schedules like some time ago. So we knew that they had 2 home games that they were going to use it. But Washington just like randomly announced it like the same night they took that beat down against the Philadelphia Eagles. So in terms of who, I don't know, but when, that was Sunday night when they lost against the Eagles. So that's kind of where that happened. Okay.
Yes.
Back to that.
Hold on, real quick. I was gonna say someone smart in marketing was like, "Hey, we may not be good for the rest of the year. Let's debut it against our rival Dallas Cowboys." I feel like that was a smart move because this shit could really get bad and ugly if they lose to Dallas. At least if they do lose, like, people and the fans of the NFL overall can be like, "Oh, they got some tight uniforms," just like how they done with the Cincinnati Bengals tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I like the uniforms. I mean, I like the marketing ploy. It's worked. It's actually distracted people. The very same night.
It was a panic.
Yeah, I'm about to say, that very same night that they lost, people were starting to talk about the uniforms. Like, they forgot about the game for a split second. So I definitely agree it was a panic move. But these guys, man, offensively for Dallas, I'm not afraid of Cooper Rush. I was talking before you got in here, Dre. I talked about it for a second. But AJ, I was talking about Cooper Rush early on, and I'm in a boat where you're asking a backup quarterback to sustain a consistent level of play for 4 games minimum, given that Dak may not be back even next week. You're asking a backup quarterback to sustain like that. And even, I'm not saying he's not playing at a top 10 level right now, but he's playing okay football. And you're asking that man to sustain like that. There's going to be a letdown someday. And for you to come off of 2 straight wins in which, it's somewhat of a comeback fashion in both of those, like game-winning drives, I guess, or fourth quarter comebacks at the very least. Like, you've had those moments. I don't know if that's going to be sustainable. I would also be in a situation where I'm stacking the box. I'm forcing him to make some tough throws against some aggressive looks defensively. Now that's what I would do. But I know Jack Del Rio doesn't really play an aggressive coverage on the back end. Like, they're not really putting hands on receivers. So I kind of take that part with a grain of salt. You hope he does it, but I don't think he will. But ultimately, what also helps too, like another thing that Cowboys from an offensive side, if you can really get home with 4 or 5 man rushes, that helps. And that's kind of speaking in obvious sense, but for Dallas, it really helps against Cooper Rush because he's probably better against the blitz from what I understand. And if you can get home with that 4 or 5 man rush and have as many as possible in coverage, then you're winning. So that really puts the pressure on a Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and obviously whoever's going to be on the other end, F.A. Obata, James Smith-Williams, or if these guys are even fully healthy to do that, or even Shaka Toney, if you can get Shaka Toney in there, that pass rush is going to be important. You can't really afford to send so many blitzers in because I think that Cooper Rush and that Dallas Cowboys offense can be prepared for that.
Yeah, and Montez Sweat has to start. He getting off this season. He has to wake up. This has to be his coming out game.
Yeah, no bullshit. He's still asleep.
This is it. Because like I said, this is a guy we've been waiting for to see the potential since we drafted him. And we just still, frankly, haven't seen that freakish breakout type of play. Like I said, he looked like he was going to do it in 2020. And it's funny because the game I really thought we finally start to see the freakish, athleticism and him finally breaking out was that Cowboys game on Thanksgiving 2 years ago. So, last year was a wash. He had his issues. Now, this year, so far, you're just not hearing his name enough. I mean, I get it. Chase Young's not on the other side, but we drafted Montez Sweat before Chase Young with the thought that this guy was going to be havoc-wreaking edge rusher, and we still haven't seen that from Montez Sweat like that. Ron Rivera mentioned in his press conference he's getting doubled and chipped, but I don't really want to hear that. And good thing is Montez did come out and say, no, he's not taking those excuses about the doubled and chips. Good. You should you should still be making plays some kind of way. You should be impacting this game some kind of way. He has the talent. And like you said, Mual, for us, we don't want to really come into this game blitzing and, sending so many guys. You want to be able to get home with your guys that you have. I mean, I'm fairly confident in the defensive tackles, of course, Payne and Allen. I think they're going to do what they always do. But the edge rushers, I mean, we still can't expect much out of whoever's starting in Chase Young's place. But we damn sure can expect a hell of a lot out of Montez Sweat. And I'm looking for him to have, a big game finally, so he has to be the catalyst, at least on defense. One of the guys, I agree with AJ. I would keep, Ben St. Juice on the outside. I think, that's where he excelled. I think he was really good this past weekend on the outside. And that's what they drafted him for. I thought they drafted him with the vision that he would be an outside guy. And William Jackson, if he's back this week and healthy, he would be my other outside guy. And like AJ said, I will move Kendall Fuller around all over the field. Bobby McCain, I'm sorry, he's just a player. He's just a player on the field. I think he's out there a lot because he won't necessarily do anything crazy or stupid, but he's also not going to make any plays in the game. He's just on the field. And you want to get some guys in spots where they can make plays. And I do feel like Kendall Fuller, if he's not focused on just checking a guy man to man, if he's playing a zone, safety or whatever the case may be, he could probably make more plays than Bobby McCain. So I would probably play him a lot more than I would play Bobby McCain. But again, I think this staff, at least especially on the defensive side of the football, they're a little too slow to adjust. So I don't know if you'll see that. They'll probably put Ben St. Juice right back in the slot. But key to the game for me, like I said, those will be my moves. Ben St. Juice stays on the outside. William Jackson, he's on the outside, and you move Kendall Fuller around like AJ said, and hopefully you can start making plays because you need to make some plays. You got to start forcing some turnovers. I mean, you've only forced 1 turnover in 3 games, and that's just not going to cut it. It's not giving the offense any momentum, and the offense damn sure can use some momentum. I mean, you hope the offense can get off without needing the momentum of the defense, but they need your help right now. And so you have to start forcing turnovers. Like, you have to start forcing turnovers, give your team some momentum.
Yeah, I also think a lot of the success rushes that Montez Sweat had coming out of college were based off his athleticism. And the NFL, we all know that you also have to become a technician. You can't just run by people and use your power and speed. I think that's one of the struggles that he's having, but it's being highlighted more now because Chase is no longer, there to be a pairing, and he's not on the field at all. So a lot of people are having these high expectations for him due to the fact that he is a first-round pick and he still should be producing something. But at the end of the day, if he don't have the proper technique, I really don't pay too much attention to his hand placement and stuff. I typically just
goes with a long arm.
Yeah, I typically see him bull rush and long arm plays. That could work in college. In the league, when
that's what got Ryan Kerrigan in trouble, bruh. Like, Ryan Kerrigan he got sacks, but ultimately, like, a lot of his rush plans were some of the same. So I guess it comes down on like how you can perfect it and how you can set it up. But even still, like, if somebody knows you well, that long arm and that bull rush ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and it's like you're going against Lane Johnson last week, for example. You got to beat those type of guys with your speed and hand placement. And if you're long arm and stuff, you might fall into to a sack here and there. But, that's always even been my issue with Ryan Kerrigan. I feel like he was never an impactful pass rusher. I felt like a lot of his sacks he just fell into. But at the end of the day, I think it just boils down really to coaching and putting these guys in position. Maybe, utilizing him just like how you mentioned, Mual, how the Cowboys have Parsons playing all over the field. Maybe do some of that with Montez. Like, maybe have him being an interior pass rusher at times instead of just always on the edge.
Yeah, so we got 2 things and we'll get out of here, fellas. Magic Man asked a good question, and Will, appreciate you checking in. He brought up a point. So, hey, everybody that's in the chat, let's get your score predictions and let's get your final your game's MVP. So, Magic, I see you. Magic said 35-10 winning in the all black. Okay, I got it. Look good, play good. So he has Washington winning 35-10. And we'll go to Will's. We'll double this up so we can get our predictions in as well. Will Smith said that. Oh my God. Will said Alex Smith with our current skill players would be interesting. That's the first one, and then the second one was Magic also asked, is Montez Sweat worse than Brian Orakpo? I guess he's talking about just given their circumstances here in Washington. So let's hear about Montez Sweat and Brian Orakpo, Alex Smith in the skill players in the current offense. And then obviously we'll do our score predictions after that. I'll get my quick answers. Montez Sweat worse than Brian Orakpo. I'm gonna say I think Brian Orakpo had a little bit more. He had a couple double-digit sack seasons. So I'm gonna just say right now, statistically, I'm gonna say like Brian has had more production, even though he was still a little bit underwhelming, and that's what led to his departure in Washington. So I'm gonna just say, he's a little worse off than Brian Orakpo, but I am never going to entertain the idea of Will Smith. I keep doing that. Alex Smith. Alex Smith in this offense, man. The vertical passing game is not his forte. And if you're asking him to be conservative, he'll definitely protect the football for you, but you ain't gonna see that man take a lot of chances. So those are my answers on that one. I do have Washington winning 24-20. I don't know who the MVP will be, but if they do win, it's gonna have. I'm gonna say Jamin Davis. Fuck it. Jamin Davis is gonna do something special.
What?
Okay.
Don't worry about what I said. I answer the question.
I missed a lot of the show, but are you drunk?
Hey, look, 24-20, man. Washington getting the dub, bro.
No, don't ignore the part you said. most
Jamin
valuable
Davis.
player of the game is going to be Jamin Davis.
How you know he ain't gonna get a pick or like 2 sacks or something like that?
Hey,
How you know he ain't gonna outshine
Dre.
Michael Parsons, bro?
Dre, was your man drinking before I came on?
I've been the only one drinking, to my knowledge, man.
Oh man,
Mark
got that
going to
water.
Dallas, that boy
I
going
got
to
that
Dallas
water,
tomorrow,
bro.
so he just out of zone. Like what?
Nah, man. Hey, somebody look. If in order to win a tough game with your backs against the wall, somebody got to step up and make a play. And I think it's gonna be the guy that's been picked on in the media over the past 3 goddamn weeks. I'm gonna say Jamin Davis, and I'm gonna stick on it, bro.
I like the bold prediction.
Yeah, bro. It's bold prediction, man. Respect it. Hey, where y'all at, man? Montez Sweat, Brian Arakpo, Alex Smith. With this current offense, score prediction, all that good stuff, man. Where y'all at?
Yeah, crazy enough. Brian Arakpo's name gets mentioned. He'll be on the show with us in a couple weeks. So I guess whoever asked that question, they could ask him not who's worse, but more so who you feel emulates how you played in the league, Chase or Montez, and let him kind of dissect that. But yeah, I mean, there's no comparison at all. I mean, if you just want to look at the stats, like Brian had successful years here, maybe not the most elite pass rusher, but you know, he was serviceable for what the defensive scheme was calling. I feel like a lot of times in Washington, a lot of the players that they've had not been in the best schemes that have helped them thrive. And you know, Brian to me was one of those guys. LeVar Arrington was one of those guys. I think even like Marcus Washington could have been even better. He was good for his time here, but I just feel as though like a lot of times it matters who's scheming you up, and unfortunately it didn't happen that way. But I don't see us using our guys like that. But I guess prediction wise score, I hate score predictions, but I will say
I do too, but I like playing the game in the same vein. I'm with you.
I will say 27 to 13 Dallas.
Okay. 27-13 Dallas. All right. For me,
and the MVP, I guess if you want to have an MVP, I think it'll be Deron Payne.
Okay. Deron Payne. Is it an MVP if they lose?
I thought you were gonna go Cowboys or something.
Nah, I mean, if I gotta pick somebody based on who wins, then of course it's gonna be Michael Parsons and that defensive line, him, D-Law. I think
you only said Micah because I said Jamin, bro. I know. I see what you. I see what you up to.
I actually think for some of y'all bettors, I think that Dallas is going to score on defense. I think a pick six happens.
Hey, I wouldn't bet against that with the way this offense has been playing. But for me, the Brian Arakpo question. So Brian Arakpo, he was never a premier pass rusher in the NFL. But Brian Arakpo, I always thought he was above average. I thought he was a very solid pass rusher. He wasn't the type of pass rusher or edge rusher that you were necessarily game planning against, but he usually made his impact felt at some point in the game. I always felt like his strongest move was drawing a hold. Like Brian Arakpo, he knew how to throw them damn hands up, and he would get that holding call. So I always
that's where Ryan Kerrigan got it from.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Brian Arakpo started that shit. He was, he started that gangster shit. So Ryan Kerrigan fell in line, but to this point, if we're comparing their careers, I'm gonna say through their first few years, Brian Arakpo was the better player. I mean, Montez Sweat is still all potential. We're still talking about what he can potentially be and what kind of talent he has, but his production hasn't matched what Brian Arakpo has brought. I mean, and the thing is, like Brian Arakpo, when he was here, he was the best edge rusher on the team. Even when Ryan Kerrigan was, here, Brian Arakpo was still that guy until he left. And Montez necessarily doesn't really have to be that guy here because you have Chase. Chase is supposed to be your premier pass rusher. So you would think Montez Sweat, but it's unfortunate because Chase isn't playing. But Montez Sweat doesn't necessarily really have that pressure, even though he should have been able to handle that type of pressure given his draft status. And because, like I said, when you drafted him, you didn't have Chase Young. And there was no guarantee you were going to add a Chase Young in the next season. So you expected Montez to make that leap at some point in his career. And we just still haven't seen it yet. But granted, it's still early. He can still make an impact. Maybe he can start, he can get hot. I mean, pass rushers do that. So, but to this point in their career, I'm definitely taking Brian Arakpo's production over Montez Sweat. Like I said, Montez Sweat is still a theory right now. He's not a fact. He's just a theory.
A theory. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a theory. Game wise, I'm only picking something. Vegas is making me pick what I'm about to pick. And
okay, I know where you at it.
Yeah,
here we go. Both of y'all niggas is drunk.
No, because so for me, the line stinks. Like you would think after Washington has looked the way they looked the last couple of games,
they'd be like a 6-point dog.
It would be a 5-6 point. They would be a 5-6 point underdog, especially going on the road to Dallas. And Dallas won their last 2 games. So you would think that the line should be a little bit higher than it is, but it's only around 3 points right now, which means Vegas is telling you that this game, they expect Washington to be a little bit better than a lot of people think they're going to be this week. So I'm going 27-17 Commanders. And my MVP of this game is going to be Antonio Gibson. I feel like if you're going to win this game, Antonio Gibson has to have a big game, whether it's just running the ball or just getting touches, just getting him touches and getting him in the flow of this game, him having a big game. He will be the MVP if they win this game.
There it is. All right, so we got 35-10 Magic Man. We got 65-7 Hawk, and I know he's just joking. In his dreams is what he said. Monty, 24-13 Washington dub. Player of the game, Gibby. And then he said he brought up Rocky McIntosh. That was a throwback name. Marcus Washington was a throwback name that got me as well. Okay, so fellas, we will talk about like a Monday thing, but nothing in concrete for everybody that's here that's listening. We'll figure it out. It's a fluid situation in terms of like the next show. There is no morning show tomorrow morning, but the fellas will be back soon. Once we figure some things out, we'll get that shit situated. Maybe even just a Twitter space or something like that. But with that being said, we're going to get up out of here. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend, fellas. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend too. Your boy better be turned up out there in Dallas, man. Sunrise to sunset out that motherfucker drinking. You know what I'm saying? Turned up out that thing. But
safe passages, brother. And it's a barbecue place down there. I forget the name of it, but check it out when you're down there, man. Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna text you because I know you said you had a couple spots that we needed to tap into. So
it's a sports bar you need to go check out. It's like the Hooters version. I mean, I don't know what you're doing there for.
All I need, player. Yeah. I'm gonna hit your phone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit your phone. So everybody enjoy y'all. Yeah. Enjoy y'all weekend. Enjoy y'all night. Enjoy the game, man. I'm about to tap in too. Let's go Cincy, baby. Let's go Cincy.
All right, man. Y'all boys be safe.